Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Boston Art Commission. My name is Alexander Paul Zotov, and I'm the Public Art Registrar in the Mayor's Office of Art and Culture. In that capacity, I'm also the Administrator of the Boston Art Commission. Let's take a moment to please update our names and pronouns, as well as make sure we're all muted. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. As a reminder, this was extended until 2025. To ensure public deliberations of the Boston Art Commission, the public can join this meeting through telephone and video conferencing.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Paul, and thanks to everyone else for being here. Diana's joined us too. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and the Boston Art Commission believe that public art is any artwork installed in publicly accessible spaces where they can be experienced by everyone for free. For transparency and community input, artworks proposed for City of Boston property are reviewed and discussed at public meetings of the BAC on a regular and usually monthly basis. Working together with the public art team and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, the BAC is an independent board composed of 2 ex officio and 7 volunteer community members appointed by the mayor. The BAC has exclusive authority to approve and commission artworks intended to be added to the city's collection or placed on city property. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture's public art team facilitates the BAC meetings, our public meetings, and manages all phases, daily operations, and duties related to public art projects cited on or proposed for City of Boston property in collaboration with the Boston Art Commission, community members, and colleagues of the city at the City of Boston. And today, helping to facilitate this meeting are Amber Torres, Public Art Project Manager, and Paul Zotov, Public Art Registrar. And we'll share an email in the chat in case you want to reach out to us. With that, I will pass it to Camilo Alvarez, who is acting as chair today.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I am calling this public hearing to order on June 11th at 4:36 p.m. 2024. Today, the Commission is holding its monthly public meeting. Our meetings are generally held on the second Tuesday of every month. We hope you'll continue to join us. We engage in discussions about public art in Boston in order to foster the creation and collection of artworks that reflect the people, ideas, histories, and futures of Boston, which is located on the traditional homeland of the Massachusetts people and the neighboring Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge the atrocities committed against Indigenous people, all of the communities that have been subsequently harmed, and the ways in which colonialism has created systemic oppression. We recognize the continuing presence of these communities and the Indigenous people represented in the city's residents, in addition to those in the diaspora. We also recognize that Boston exists as a result of the forced labor and economic extraction from enslaved African Americans. I will now take a roll call of the commissioners to confirm a quorum. Our chair, John Adams, is not here. I am your vice chair. After I state your name, commissioners, please stay here. Kiara Elliott Ortega is not here. Diana Fernandez Bibo.
Present.
Thank you. Robert Freeman is not here. Brian Hone.
I am here.
Hi, Brian. Nigel Jacob.
I'm here.
Mr. Jacob. James Mason.
I'm here.
Hi, James. And Abigail Norman.
Here.
Thank you all. On the slide now, you will see today's agenda, which is also posted publicly on the city's website, boston.gov. We will now review the minutes from the May meeting. Are there any comments or modifications any commissioner would like to make on the May minutes? And at this time, can I request a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Abigail. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. And now Karen Guildfellow, our director, will highlight the presentations for public review and give her director's report next.
Thank you. So we have a few presentations for today. If we can move the slide forward. Thank you. So first we have the final design for Fields Corner, the asphalt mural. And this is something that we're very excited about. We are working with the proponent, Jackie West Devine from Fields Corner Main Streets. I think we want to confirm that she's here before we move forward with that one. So there's a chance this one may get bumped to the second presentation. This will be the second time you're seeing this. And so this will be the final design for them. And we will also be looking at a long-term artwork, which we're really excited for. This is going to be a preliminary design with Jenny Sabin, who I see is here. And the proponent for that is the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, represented by Amber Torres, project manager at the City of Boston. And third, we have up a final acceptance for a long-term mural at the BCYF Shelburne in Roxbury, and that is by Gio Go5 Ortega and Luis Take One Taforo, and that is for a legacy of color. And that will be presented by Paul Zotov from the City of Boston's Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And then we have 3 presentations for you that are in grant review. So these are projects that are coming through the Unmonument project. So we wanted to make sure that we clear approval for you to move on these projects should they receive final grant approval. These will all be temporary public art projects, and as I said, part of the Unmonument initiative that we are leading in collaboration with funding from the Mellon Foundation. And we were hoping to include a 4th, but we're not able to confirm some needed content before the meeting. And if the project is able to move forward, we will bring it back next month. So these projects are, as listed here, Elevar La Cultura by Victor Quinones for City Hall Plaza. We Are Here Too, another temporary project. This one will be in the North End in proximity to the Cops Hill Burying Ground by Roberto Mighty. And lastly, Spray It Loud, Display It Proud, which would be a series of temporary graffiti murals at various sites over the course of the summer. And that would be by Aaron Myers through a trike called Funk. So we will move forward with those. And those are just a little bit different than what we would usually do, but we wanted to lean toward transparency and sharing them with you before we do make grant commitments to those. So we will also give you some updates on projects. And you can see some images here. Public Works has recontracted with GPI on the design of Douglas Peace Plaza, the future site of Journey of My Soul, the legacy of Frederick Douglass, initiated by the Frederick Douglass Sculpture Committee. It's a huge deal for us. You've seen images of these works that have already been created, and we're really just waiting for the site to move forward. And it looks like we're back on track with that. And they expect to present design plans to the PIC, the Public Improvement Commission, this August, and have the final documents out to bid by the fall. So that's going to be a huge project, and we're very excited. And after exploring the possibility of directly painting the Vine Street interior mural by Destiny Palmer at the Vine Street BCYF in Roxbury, instead of using vinyl to prevent further delays, we had some discussions with the administration and finance team in our office, and we learned that due to procurement reasons, we would not be able to do that. It wasn't a viable strategy. And so we're returning to the original installation plans for vinyl fabrication and installation. And project manager Amber Torres is working with Pat McDonough from Property Management on site preparation this June. And we hope to have a vinyl fabricator onboarded by August. And the artist team for Call and Response, Radiating Safety by LaMercy Fraser at Firehouse 42, Engine 42 in Eggleston Square, visited the station last Wednesday for site testing. You can see the photos on the screen. And the artwork is still slated for installation later this summer. And incidentally, LaMercy Fraser just had her second artwork acquired by the Renwick Gallery at the Smithsonian. And last Friday, Our partners in property management began advertising an invitation to bid on the construction of a steel base for rotating sculptures at City Hall by the north entrance in preparation for the installation of Amulet by Ria Vedro. The call closes on July 10th, and we will share the link in the chat in case you would like to share the opportunity with businesses in your network. Installation is anticipated for late this fall. For the Adams Street branch in Dorchester project with artist Priscilla de Cavallo, Amber will be working with property management on obtaining dimensions for the interior wall, fence, and planter at the library in order for the artist to begin working on fabrication and installation plans. And we are also in the process of reviewing transformative public art. The citywide call was put out in March as a part of the Unmonument Initiative, and we're in discussion with artists and site owners and our grants team at the City of Boston to do final selection on those projects. And as I mentioned, we are anticipating some necessary approvals, so trying to get those squared away with you today so we can grant to those projects with confidence. And in terms of negotiating contracts, Copley Square Park in the Back Bay, the RFP was reissued because I think it had expired was the issue that we had. And it's currently in the review phase for artist selection, and we hope to have artists selected to be ready to share for next month. Artist Wen T. Sen shared maquettes of Chinatown worker statues project for Chinatown at a recent celebration held by the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, and you can see the images here. It was really incredible to see them in person, and we're very excited, and it was wonderful to have him there that night, and so many people were excited to speak with him about the projects. And you can see there the structures they're sitting on are actually the structures he works with them on, so they rotate. It was really a wonderful moment to see them up close. And this project, as well as the DeWitt Playground at Madison Park Athletic Complex in Roxbury with Studio Luce and Marlon Forrester, and the Coconut Grove Memorial Project, Emergent Memory in Bay Village with artist team Recite. After having many long delays, those are finally moving forward with grant agreements from our office. And each one of those will be able to move forward with fabrication soon. We're just waiting for the money to be moved over to the grant recipients. And then we'll be able to move these updates into a different category. And then for Engine 17 in Dorchester, Michelle Gutlove has completed all required documentation and will be contracted and onboarded soon to begin preliminary design. And then we have some updates on Boston Air continuity funds. So I think we've shared with you before that this year for Boston Air, we don't have sort of the regular program running right now, but we did give out grants to these 7 artists that you see listed here on the right. And the idea with the continuity funds, it's to maintain the work that was seeded during their artist residency and to continue supporting the intended outcomes of the work in the residency. So we were able to support these 7 projects for $69,300. And many of the fund recipients hope to broaden the reach and impact of their air projects, and we'll just share with you some updates on what each of them are doing. And I will say the work is really incredible, and we're also in the process of adding these updates to our website, conducting interviews with them, and then finalizing an evaluation document from this last year. But this is all work that's been happening through these grant funds. John Z. Harris, who you see pictured there on the right, was a member of Cohort 5. Her residency culminated in Dorchester Weather, an original play about climate and change. To deepen its impact, the continuity funds have hired a part-time project manager, covered video editing costs, and facilitated meetings with stakeholders. They have also enabled Harris and a core team of collaborators to use time researching, planning, and fundraising for the next phase of Dorchester Weather. This past spring, Harris was awarded a National Theater Creation and Touring Grant from the New England Foundation for the Arts, NEFA, to continue to develop Dorchester Weather under the new working title, The Lot Next Door, and this play will premiere June 2026. 8 public workshops will start soon to engage community members in the next phase of this neighborhood-wide playmaking project. Through these efforts, Harris aims to use theater as a process to bring people together across various sectors in order to build relationships and center stories that inspire and facilitate a positive impact on issues at the intersection of environment, development, sustainability, and social resilience. Ashton Lights is very active in his work right now. And I will say, you can see right there that his first event is happening this Friday evening. So it would be, I've been to some of them before, and I highly recommend that you stop by. Over the summer at Mary Hannon Park in Dorchester, Lights will be hosting numerous free and public dance events, further exploring how using and designing infrastructure that support dance, like they do sports, can impact communities, including these events on June 14th and 21st. This year, It Starts in the Park is in collaboration with BAMS Fest. Activations will lead into the festival, where workshop leaders and performers will also activate the main stage and the Beat Feet tent. Lights also produced the second season of For the City, a Boston dance docuseries that spotlights and celebrates voices in Boston's unique freestyle dance history and traces the impact of dance in public open space across generations. Erangenia, who's a member of Cohort 4, is in the final stages of completing Climate Change, a Cultural Emergency Response book, where the text has been finished and the artist is now working on block print illustrations. Concurrently, Genia is thinking through potential distribution channels and is questioning where it will live and who will benefit from using it. Additionally, the vest she made as her final air deliverable is currently being showcased at the Venice Biennale, and you can see an image of it there. And so that is all beaded. Elise Patterson, who is a member of Cohort 5, is next up here. The Manifesto Against Offensive Design, which she created during her residency, aims to expand its reach and educate communities and municipal workers on features of accessibility design, such as the safety benefits of center running bus lanes, which might seem counterintuitive. The continuity funds have been used to distribute more manifestos to libraries and schools, share footage of community crawls, and foster collaboration with BTD to enhance community engagement. Raising issues of inaccessibility and how this conversation can be facilitated from a community and government perspective, Patterson continues to probe relevant inquiries surrounding transportation access. Eloisa Barbosa, also from Cohort 5, is the next one. From March to June, Barbosa has been conducting a storytelling workshop with students of the LLOP program, Latino Leadership Program at UMass Boston, where the students are telling their own stories about topics that are very close to their hearts and minds. Concurrently, Barbosa is working with the BPDA to produce 3 other audio pieces that approach the racial wealth gap, new transnational identities of immigrants in the Boston area, a piece about corner stores not only as businesses, but as cultural centers for the communities that they serve. And Lily Shea, over the late summer, she will develop a workshop with and for BPDA staff in response to major themes that came up during her AIR residency, such as community engaged design, ways that planners can transfer power to community, and power sharing with marginalized folks. Additionally, she will develop a sonic piece that explores the question, if you could build anything in Boston, what would you build? Which was posed to youth over the course of her residency. The remaining funds will be used to roll out and promote the hotline she also developed as part of her residency. And lastly, as part of Boston Air, Rasheen Fahandej, who was a member of Cohort 2, but also participated in the initial cohort the first year. As we approach nearly a decade since Fahandej's residency, which launched her seminal project, A Father's Lullaby, the work stands at a pivotal juncture. The vision is to evolve it from an artist-led initiative into a formalized organization to broaden its impact and uplift the experiences of fathers affected by incarceration. The new structure aims to scale the project from a Boston-based initiative to national and international levels, addressing questions of impact and sustainability. These efforts build on the learnings, processes, and various pedagogical models developed over the years, as well as over 9 artist intervention models created in public spaces and institutions. The goal is to create partnerships necessary to replicate these models in other localities. To support this transition and involve alumni fathers and the broader community, the artist is using continuity funds for honorariums to engage fathers in re-envisioning and future planning, and to support sustained engagement for alumni to better understand the program's impact and scale. Additionally, funds are allocated for grant writing support, project restructuring, research, administrative assistance, and the design of an archival website. And then lastly, the conservation work. We have told you a little bit that we finally contracted with Dallas as our house doctor for conservation, and they have been working with the Public Art Registrar Paul Zotov and identified priorities for the remainder of FY24 and to inform FY25. And then some ongoing collections work. The Webster's reply to hang the giant painting in the Great Hall in Faneuil Hall by George P.A. Healy that has been undergoing conservation for some time now after some rips were found to be coming on the top two corners of it. Thanks to the National Park Service, visitors will be welcome to the Great Hall to drop in on the conservation by the end of the month during normal hall hours. In discussion with collaborating departments to fix the wall, we are working with a structural engineer to think about next steps. And I think it's really incredible to go in there and to see the wall exposed. So the painting is down on the ground. It's really incredible to see the painting, but also just to see the wall and what Faneuil Hall looks like without that painting up above the stage. And those are all the updates. I'm sorry, there are so many of them, but we're really excited about everything that we've had going on. And with that, I will pass it back to Camilo.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. I mean, it's amazing to see the sheer diversity of mediums represented by all the past artists and residents, and then they still keep working and they're embedding in civic life.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will now move on to the items on the agenda for review, public testimony, and commissioner votes. Here is how you can participate in today's meeting. If you have technical difficulties, you can ask questions in the chat and a member of the staff will help you. When public testimony is requested, you can press the raise your hand icon and we will call on you. If you are calling in, press *9 to raise your hand. Our goal is to make this meeting a good experience for all. Please remember to keep your comments on topic, brief, and respectful of others. You can submit longer written testimony to bac@boston.gov. If you are called on, please state your name, title, program, and the organization if relevant. The first presentation for review today is the final design review of a long-term asphalt mural by Ngo Tran Vu, with consulting from Rixie Fernandez and Liz Lamanche of Neighborways at the intersection of Dorchester Avenue and Adams Street in Dorchester, proposed by Jackie West Divine, Fields Corner, Main Street. Public Art Project Manager Torres will introduce the project. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you. You may remember approving this project a few months ago. Thermoplastic murals are technically long-term, lasting longer than standard asphalt murals, which are considered short-term. So Fields Corner Main Street is back to share fabrication and installation plans, and I'll pass it off to Jackie to present.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me back today. This presentation should be short and to the point, providing some updates from our last meeting. As you all know, we are a nonprofit that works for the city of Boston and at the intersection of the city and with the community of Fields Corner. Our goal is placemaking and our goal is small business support. And we believe that this asphalt mural achieves both of those goals. The location of the intersection is long blighted, and I believe everyone has sat through it. So I'm sorry, I was anticipating we were going to skip over to some of the meat. So I'll give a little bit of review on the space, but there's been a lot of traffic incidences in this intersection. There's actually been many vehicular homicides over the past 5 years. And more than that, we want the lived experience of the intersection to be both more safer, but also through the asphalt mural, we believe that art will help provide joy and maybe even a sense of patience for drivers who are stuck in traffic getting to our neighborhood. Fields Corner Main Street was given, and all the Main Street districts were given a tremendous amount of money for us as tiny nonprofits to make beautification improvements in the neighborhood 3 years ago. And we knew during that time that we had to do something that was great for the neighborhood. As I mentioned, the intersection has long been an issue. There's been many interactions that have happened over the last 20 years. At one point, the street was filled in and made a parklet in front of DeBenny's and Angel Hair Salon, if you know the neighborhood. Then there was cross hatching that was put in this intersection. And there's been many programs that former Main Street directors have engaged in, art in the park, sit with the director, these kinds of things. But really what we need to do, and through conversations with traffic and streets, we've really figured out that what we need to do is slow down the traffic that comes into this intersection. And so this is one of our approaches. Oh, you know what? I don't think this is actually the updated. This isn't the updated we were going to present on. I'm sorry. Is it possible to switch over the other presentation? I can pull it up on my end if not. I'm sorry.
Just a second, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I should have stopped us a little earlier. I was like, maybe we didn't decide to take out the other stuff.
I'm just going to make you a co-host, Jackie.
Oh, sure. Let me pull it up on my end. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to go into presentation mode. And we'll skip ahead to the timeline. So I did want to say that this, the intersection really has to do with the feedback that we got from the community at this Open Streets in 2022. We asked the community directly for what it was that they wanted, and their number one priority was safer streets. And then number two was fun. So again, back to this mural, we felt like we really needed to do what was best for the community and honor as much of these requests as we could, but really focus on the top two. So we started working on this back with that survey in fall 2022. And now we are up to item 15, June 2024, with our final presentation. We just had, since we've last seen each other, we went to order the design that was approved. And what happened is that the manufacturer was sold to a larger company and the prices went up 3 times what they were. So Liz and I went back to the drawing pad and it took a while, but what we did is we had itemized, we had the pieces itemized and priced accordingly so we could make decisions on how much we could keep and what would get us closest to the artist's vision. And once we had that all figured out, we hit the streets again. We presented the new mural at Open Streets. We talked about it with people from the mayor's office at the mayor's coffee hour in Savin Hill. We had our annual meeting the last week in May, and just this last weekend was Dorchester Day. So we're really trying to do our best to get the word out there for exactly what we wanted to do. And the feedback has been consistent that people are just very excited. So we have our newest invoice that we can afford. We have a design that we're happy with, and we have a ton of outreach that we've done over time. And next steps on the list are continuing to get the word out, doing a press release, trying to, do artist bios, tell this story to the media, and, get people amped up, maybe hopefully do a couple of news stories and different forums, print and TV. And then the installation will happen, God willing, in August, and immediately after the installation happens, we'll have a
Jackie,
block
can I
party.
interrupt you? Do you mean to be changing slides?
Oh, here we go. No, not yet. I wasn't there yet, but here we are.
Okay, and
Oh,
if
is it
possible,
changing slides?
are you able to move into presentation mode?
Oh,
I think on the top right, next to the share button, there's a purple present button, one lower. Yeah, can you try hitting that just so it's, and I think down there. That might make it a little bit bigger for people to see.
oh, okay. I was already there, but I can't see you all anymore with it. Sorry for the technical issues. So, is it working now? Paul?
No.
No?
We can see your, I'm sorry, we can see your screen. It's just, we can see your full screen.
Okay.
I'm
Hold
not.
on. Actually, maybe, what I'll do is,
I think it's okay. I think you can probably move through and we can
all right.
see it.
All right. Okay. All right. So this is a detailed look at what the timeline actually will look like going
Jackie,
forward. Yes.
sorry, could you center your screen? It's cut off.
Jackie, why don't you just send us a link to it and then,
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's what.
okay. Everybody.
Okay. Paul, should I send it back to your email, or would you like me to attach the PowerPoint?
Email is best. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I don't know if Mercury is in retrograde still. Yeah, that was really interesting. It was on presentation mode on my screen, so I couldn't see you all. I didn't see your note.
And as soon as we see it, I'm going to share my screen. Thanks for
Great.
your patience, everyone.
Thank you.
I know that the city of Boston emails have a guard or a protection on it, so that's part of the delay. As I await doing my security training, that's a reminder. I gotta get some security training.
Let me see if this works one more time. How's that look?
I think it's fine. We should just move forward.
Okay. Okay. So
I think if you can just click through it this way, this is fine and it's centered.
it's centered. You can see the whole screen now.
Yeah,
Okay.
centered.
Here we go.
Great.
All right. So from now until the actual asphalt mural takes place, is installed, these are our next steps. Neighborways and Fields Corner Main Street will be overseeing the project installation to completion. These are our roles. K5 is a vendor with the city of Boston, and it will be pulling all the permits to both close the street and order the police detail. This is included in our invoice. And then Neighborways, myself and Liz will be present during the installation to ensure the placement and photography documentation of the installation. The installation will also happen overnight in the early hours. And here is a sample look. August 1st is not the confirmed date at this point, but on the night it happens, this is what will happen. Around midnight, police detail K5, myself and Liz will all arrive at the intersection, and then we'll systematically go through closing one end of the street at a time to install the thermoplastic. And again, once the thermoplastic is applied and fired, it cures immediately. So with many different kinds of paints, it takes the time to apply the paint, and then it really needs to cure for 6 hours before road traffic can resume and car traffic can resume. So in this case, it does not require that. So we'll be able to go through street by street, and we don't have to actually close down the entire intersection for the entirety of the installation. So as a reminder, our coalition just keeps on growing bigger and bigger, and we've recently added new urban mechanics and do it to our team of city members who are really invested. BPDA Squares and Streets has taken this on because it touches their work and their because they're working in Fields Corner this summer. And then C11 is, they didn't think we could do it, but here we are still saying the same thing. So we've won them over. And as a reminder, this is our lovely artist that we've worked with through time. We started out working with the Artists for Humanity, and we got a lot of insight from them about what kind of project would be attractive to teenagers who live in Dorchester and use this intersection all the time. And at a certain point, we needed the technical assistance that Liz LaManche could provide. She is a vendor with the city who does all of the thermoplastic art for the most part. She does the Marathon Monday. She also does the feast days in the North End over the summer. So she's very, very familiar with this material. And then Rixie and Tran both have an intimate view of Fields Corner, and both portrayed important cultural relevance that we wanted to honor in the process as well. So this is our new design. It is pared down a lot, but again, the price tripled. And even if we could have spent $300,000 to create the design that we had, it didn't feel right to spend that kind of money. Again, I want to highlight that the project that we're here to display is the art, and we're still really happy with the elements that it picks up. It still honors our neighborhood's request for color, for flowers, for picking up on green space. But we're also working with the city to look at interventions that might change where the placement of these stop lines are, and to create a plan with the two schools that are here in mind, and the fact that we have driveways off of this intersection as well. Again, thermoplastic, you can see our variety of colors that we were able to pull from. And this is an actual image of what the thermoplastic firing process looks like. It's tiles that are placed down, and then these like fire gun things melt it immediately. And we have a finalized budget. The materials and installation cost $92,000. We are also putting in our maintenance fund for $5,000 every year to continue on being able to make updates if any of the tiles come off. And again, because we've had these conversations with the city, there's lots of people who are keeping an eye on this, but it really is Fields Corner Main Street's responsibility to check on the mural every quarter and report back to Streets and K5 if there's any additional work that needs to be done. We need to make any adjustments. So again, we believe in the goal of this project. We want this to happen so badly. We're so excited to work with you all on it. And we hope that you'll be able to join us in the intersection and have a big party in August.
Thank you, Jackie. That was, trying, but we got through it. Thank you so much. The commissioners will now have the opportunity to ask any additional questions. After the commissioner question and answer, we may invite the public to make comments. Any commissioners have questions for Jackie?
Abigail?
Hi, Jackie. Thank you for that presentation. I'm just not entirely clear. So the mural, the asphalt mural is in the roadway, right? On the surface of the roadway. And it's that pattern that you showed of flowers. Is that it? I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul, I think in the presentation we had one slide that showed the design a bit bigger than the images Jackie had. It is on slide 34. So that folks can actually take a look at it.
I think even the last page, Paul, go on past thank you. Oh, maybe not.
And so just to clarify, the flowers show where people can walk, is that right?
So actually, when we were going through the process with streets, they were happy to let us decorate the intersection and make it more vibrant, but they did not want to interfere with traffic patterns, are regularly recognized symbols for traffic patterns. And so the crosswalks still exist as they are. And the top left corner to the bottom right corner, that's Dorchester Avenue. And then the other side, bottom left to top right, is Adams Street.
And so just, I know we've taken a lot of your time, but how is it that this assists with safety?
So there's many ways that assists with safety. Mainly, though, is that it draws the eye. It creates a space for where pedestrians could be. Our ultimate goal is, and it's mostly a change. We've seen the research on this has only started in the last 5 years or less, and most of it's come through Bloomberg. But what happens is cars go slower. It's a reminder that these intersections are crossing zones, that this is a space where cars and people engage together. I shouldn't have taken out that slide that shows the research, but I think it's mostly there's some thoughts that it's incidental, and the experience of being in an intersection with art just makes people experience it feeling safer. But it is on the newer end, but it is clear that it's having a positive impact, both on pedestrian view and also on for cars.
Thank you.
I have a question about the night of the installation. Will there be any notice prior to that about the street closures?
That is a great question, and I think there should be. I believe, I'm not sure how that happens. When the police shut down a road, but there usually is signage that goes up. And I would think that through the regular construction notifications that come up, then we would do something similar.
Jackie, I just had a question about the research dimension of this. This is really interesting. I'm a little familiar with some of that research myself that Bloomberg did, but is streets or one of the or public works, are they going to be helping to do like the assessment part of this? I know it's primarily about beautification, but are they going to be doing like traffic counts or anything, or running a speed tracking system to understand how this moderates the traffic flow?
Yeah, there's a few different people that keep an eye on this. There's streets for sure, there's transportation, and then there's Walk Boston, who we
Mhm.
actually got most of our research from
Mm,
on the top end. So I am at, and it's very interesting also that a lot of the research, it comes from our phones. And GPS systems is really how these nonprofits gather that detail. So C11 doesn't necessarily track this, but Walk Boston was able to get me the number of crashes that happened in the intersection. So it is being tracked. It's probably not going to be the kind of thing where like you'll be able to see what traffic was like in July and then look at it in September and do a direct comparison that early. But over time, I think also because there's just so many eyes on this intersection and so many people from the city and everyone has been working together to make this happen. I anticipate we'll be able to do lots of data, present lots of data on it.
I hope there's a moment when we can actually look at a presentation after this has been up and running for a little while to get a sense as to what the impact has been,
Yeah,
either quantitatively or qualitatively.
I believe that there's a new format for sensors in the city of Boston that can go night on light poles and traffic poles. So I will inquire. My understanding is we have a parking study that's happening in the intersection, and the first day is next week, and I have a meeting with the folks from parking, from transportation. So I'll inquire about that. It's fortuitous timing that this is happening while Squares and Streets is happening because there's extra incentives.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. I would imagine Google Maps also has quite a bit of fair information on it as well. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, commissioners. Can I bring this up for can anybody give me a motion?
I'm curious, Camilo, do we want to call for any public comment?
Yes. Anybody from the public? I believe there isn't. So can I have a commissioner provide me with a motion? Us with a motion?
I can make a motion to, I think this is final design, is that right? So to approve final design of the Fields Corner Asphalt Mural proposed by Fields Corner Main Street.
Thank you, Brian. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, James. And now I will call for a vote. I am a yes. Abigail?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
And Diana Fernandez-Bibo is here. Can I get a vote from Diana, please?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Congrats. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you so much. It's been a great honor to work with the Boston Arts Commission on this project, and I look forward to the future. Please join us to celebrate it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you.
The second presentation for review today is the preliminary design for a series of long-term artworks on Ruggles Street in Roxbury by artist Jenny Sabin, proposed by Amber Torres of the City of Boston. As a reminder, during preliminary design review, commissioners provide feedback on the design and concept. Jenny will return to the BAC, that's us, the Boston Art Commission, for the final design review to ensure consistency with preliminary design and to share fabrication, installation, and maintenance plans. Amber, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next slide, please. The Ruggles Corridor Public Art Project is funded through HUD's Choice Neighborhoods program. HUD awarded the Boston Housing Authority with a CNI grant of $30 million for the Whittier Choice Neighborhood Transformation Plan. The City of Boston was designated as the lead agency for the implementation of the neighborhood strategy, which includes certain critical community improvements to be implemented by the Boston Public Works Department and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. Phase 1 of the agreement refers to the reconstruction of Ruggles Street. Phase 2 refers to this project, which was a call for public art in the form of street amenities. And Phase 3 refers to another public art project we are currently drafting for the corner of Tremont Street and Ruggles Street. Next slide, please. From 2018 to 2019, the Public Works Department held several community meetings that would inform the call to artists. At a meeting on December 9th, 2019, focused on public art, a survey revealed that public art in the form of wayfinding signage and seating elements was the preference. The call to artists for the Ruggles Corridor Public Art Project opened on February 24th, 2020, and closed on March 12th, 2020. Due to the pandemic, there were some project delays, but artist selection resumed in December of 2020. In January 2021, Jenny Sabin was approved by this commission as the artist. Next slide, please. The budget for this project is $300,000. Based on the feedback collected at public meetings, the theme for both Phase 2 and Phase 3 public art projects are celebrate the long and unique heritage of Roxbury, keep the place by reflecting the existing aesthetic of the neighborhood, and honor the people. Roxbury is in a rapid period of change, and displacement and loss of cultural identity are primary concerns for the community. Next slide, please. MOAC had to present an accept and expend order to City Council for a transfer of funds before Jenny could officially be contracted. I was connected with Jenny Sabin in December of 2022 and began finalizing sites with her in January 2023. There were 6 sites along Ruggles Street originally identified in the call to artists, starting with Site 1 at the end of Ruggles Street by Tremont Street and ending with Sites 5 and 6 on Washington Street near Nubian Station. Next slide, please. We held our first artist talk on March 18th, 2023, and attended a series of resident meetings and community events that Jenny will speak about later, but you can see on the screen, as well as some of our engagement partners. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, right here. Perfect. In May 2023, we presented to HUD for conditional approval of the street amenities. After engaging with the community all summer, Jenny was ready to compile content and finalize the design. Since fall and winter of 2023, up until this spring, we have been in conversation with several internal and external agencies regarding site constraints. A couple of weeks ago, on May 29th, we held a community design review meeting to get final feedback from the community in preparation for today's presentation. I want to give a special thanks to the representatives of the Public Improvement Commission, the Parks Department, the Transportation Department, the MBTA, and especially residents, and everyone else that I might not have mentioned for all of the help and support on this project. At this time, I'd love to pass it over to Jenny to present her proposal.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amber. And also thank you to the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture at the City of Boston for supporting this really exciting project. I also want to thank Tahara Samuels and the residents of Madison Park Development Corporation and the community of Roxbury for your contributions, commitment, and support of this exciting project. Next slide, please. Our interest in designing a series of accessible, vibrant artworks along the Ruggles Corridor in the Roxbury neighborhood of Boston is inspired by unanimous goals. Our mission to create locally driven, engaging, and transformative spaces together with diverse communities. And also importantly, the expressed values of residents and stakeholders to give voice to Roxbury's unique cultural heritage, embody the local neighborhood aesthetic as waypoint and connector corridor, and to also honor the resiliency of Roxbury residents, specifically in an era of change. Next slide, please. Specializing in innovative design and fabrication, which looks to hyper-local inspiration to generate spaces, we are also deeply invested in opportunities for varied material and community-oriented interventions. Next slide, please. In collaboration with the Roxbury community and stakeholders, and also City of Boston Poet Laureate, Portia Elijah Wea, poet Elizabeth Bradfield, and photographer Don West, who's also a native of Roxbury, longtime resident. I brought all three of these amazing individuals on board to work collaboratively on our approach to this unique project to celebrate heritage by honoring the existing aesthetic of the neighborhood and to celebrate local cultural identity and the power of connection found in voice, light, and place. Next slide, please. With over 15 years of experience and practice, we are adept at working with diverse constituencies, stakeholders, institutions, and clients, and now, importantly, including the City of Boston and the community of Roxbury and the Ruggles Corridor. Next slide, please. We began our design process taking a deep dive into research. We spent a considerable amount of time researching the complex history of Roxbury. We also built upon public comments received on the Ruggles streetscape art elements at public meetings that Amber mentioned when they were held between 2018 and 2019. And we also, importantly, began to look at the existing public art for color inspiration and to sensitively integrate with the local context. So we spent a considerable amount of time taking necessary steps in terms of research, looking at the existing styles, the type of media being used. Next slide, please. And the types of surfaces that these artists are working on. So we were looking at public art as well as some of these exquisite existing murals. Next slide, please. This then translated to incorporating vibrant color into the special materials within the project, building upon my years of collaborative work with material scientists, biologists, and engineers, looking at structural color, which we see in many exquisite organisms found in nature, including butterflies, hummingbirds, as well as seashells. Next slide, please. To then scale these exquisite behaviors and characteristics into architectural applications in an urban setting. And this is a material reference to a permanent project that was commissioned by Cornell Human Ecology on the campus of Cornell University. Next slide, please. As Amber mentioned, we also, after this period of research, began an important series of engagement events and community outreach, beginning with our first workshop, which was hosted by the Do-It Center and the Madison Park Development Group, together with Portia Elijah Wea and poet Elizabeth Bradfield. And we developed a series of prompts to engage the local residents and community, including tell us about your favorite spring memory in Roxbury, your favorite spot to relax in Roxbury, what's one way you have made this place home, who are your unsung and sung heroes of Roxbury, and many others. And you can see some of the responses here with the Post-its. Next slide, please. During this event, we also supplied a huge map of not only the corridor, but also the extended neighborhood. And participants in the workshop talked about their memories. We were able to print photographs of those important memories and engage in stories and talk about placemaking. Next slide, please. For me, engaging the residents local to the Ruggles Corridor, as well as the community of Roxbury, has been incredibly important in terms of engaging participatory design to influence our generative design strategies. So it was important that we take on a number of workshops and events to bring in an important cross-section and diverse constituency that would engage the community dynamically. So we participated in open streets. We had a booth at the Roxbury Open Streets event. Here you can see us in the lower left. And here we again asked the same series of questions to get community input, both in terms of interviews, as well as providing online modes so people could participate later on their own time. Next slide, please. We also distributed this through other channels online and through social media, again, to get as much input that we possibly could from the community. I had the great pleasure of being able to interview Ms. Pauline Sheridan and Mr. Bill, who are longtime residents of the Ruggles Corridor and have been incredible supporters and very committed to this project. And you'll see in a moment some of the input from that interview that has informed the community poem by Roxbury residents. Next slide, please. So in addition to all of this important community engagement, it has been a really important part of the project to think about the local context and making connections to nature and thinking about how we could bring that into the project in a meaningful way. And the Roxbury pudding stone came up a number of times through our various workshops and events. And the Roxbury pudding stone is a rare conglomerate that's local to the neighborhood. Many of the original buildings, museums, institutions, etc., have been built with this exquisite stone. And so I thought this was a really amazing sort of point of departure as a metaphor for the diverse multicultural nature of the community, its rich history, its complicated history. And also this stone predates everyone who has lived and inhabited the Roxbury area, including before Indigenous peoples whose lands were stolen from them. So the unique conglomerate as a patterning metaphorically and in a meaningful way represents this unique history, placemaking, and multicultural nature of the community. Next slide, please. This was then translated into a unique pattern for each bench. So you can see in the pattern in the lower portion of this drawing, making reference to the pudding stone through a set of algorithms. So every site, which you'll see more in detail in a moment, features a unique pattern based on the pudding stone with an insert of special responsive material displaying a sort of unique colorful gradient of light and shadow. Next slide, please. In terms of making reference to nature, I also incorporated an algorithmic process that's based on growth systems that we see local to plants that is based on what's called an L system. And so we did a whole series of iterations exploring the possibility of how this could be incorporated structurally and formally. Next slide, please. And then importantly, began to incorporate the very real constraints of the sites along the Ruggles Corridor, including accessibility, offsets from curbs, line of sight, taking into account tree pits and the offsets that we need to incorporate for those tree pits, and many other sensitive constraints that then informed our design decision process. Next slide, please. So taking into account these constraints, as Amber mentioned, we had to go back to the drawing board a number of times. I'm a firm believer that constraints make projects better. And in the end, the project is now distributed across the full length of the corridor in 6 unique locations, allowing for a spatial and meaningful experience of the project over time. And for example, one could experience just a single site. They could wander the entire corridor, experience it in both directions, and so on. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to take you through the 6 different sites very briefly. So this is site 1 that's located at Tremont Street and Raynor Circle. So coming down from Tremont Street at Raynor Circle. Site 2 is at Cabot Street and Ruggles. Next slide, please. Site 3 is at Ruggles and Raynor Circle. And the axonometric drawing is just to give you a sense of the 3-dimensional formal qualities and how they vary from each site. Next slide, please. Site 4 is at Sojourner Truth Court. Next slide, please. And then finally, coming to Washington Street, we have sites 5 and 6 adjacent to each other as it meets Washington and Ruggles Street. Next slide, please. So specifically, the project features 4 solutions, including narrative text in the form of a community poem. And I'll talk about that more specifically. And the content of that poem is based on all of the community input that we gathered from the various events that we just spoke about. Special responsive materials and glazing, and benches featuring the pudding stone patterning through colorful inserts, and also in-ground lighting that we think together will form a positive and unique contribution to the urban fabric, local pedestrian streetscape, and areas of public gathering to stimulate community exchange. Next slide, please. So here you can see a rendering. This is just adjacent to the ball field and sort of kitty corner to Dewitt Center. Each installation will feature a portion of the poem, as well as portraits by Don West. The portraits were selected based on input, again, from the community to the prompt, who are your sung and unsung heroes, and the number of times that that individual was mentioned. I should also mention that the portraits from Don West were part of a really impactful exhibition called Portraits by Purpose that featured luminaries important to the Roxbury community. Don's been an incredible collaborator, and we also have permission in terms of the rights to use these photographs in the project, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. So here we have Nelson Mandela and Chuck Turner. This is a detail, again, highlighting some of the colorful display of light and shadow that the pudding stone patterning will create with changing conditions of the sun and the environment, and the special materials, which are, just to give you a little bit of more detail, are wavelength dependent. So the color is constantly changing, both in terms of how you are perceiving that responsive special material as you walk by and experience the project, and also with the changing conditions of the light. Next slide, please. So the next few drawings just highlight some of the details of assembly. Here we're looking at a typical bench with the pudding stone patterning as inserts into the plasma cut stainless steel, and then finally as the folded bench. Next slide, please. And a view from the top. Next slide, please. And a foundation detail highlighting how the glazing meets the bench and then meets the foundation with the in-ground lighting. And the in-ground lighting will cast light at night up through the project, but not outwards. So thus limiting any negative impact of the lighting in the evening hours. Next slide, please. So this drawing highlights each site together along the full corridor, along with an unfolded elevation of each of the 6 sites and their 3D formal qualities. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to take you through the community poem. So again, the poem is composed of content from the input from the community. The poem was given shape and structure by Portia Elijah Wea and Liz Bradfield. They did not contribute any content, they just simply gave it shape and form. And so I'm going to read just 2 of these to give you a sense of the poem and its sort of dynamic quality. Once you got to Dudley Station, you were home, all right. You were home. This was the place, really. Cabot Street Pool, Ruggles Hall, where all the musicians came. This is where people congregated. Tropical foods used to be the size of this room. I could visualize the fire coming out of that pit at Jimmy Tyler's barbecue, and he had a line of people every single night, right here on the corner. Greasy Spoon, Robel's, Freddie Parker's top-notch barbershop, Hope Garden, Joe's Famous Steak and Cheese, Roxbury Love Mural, Silver Slipper Restaurant, Caribbean Carnival, Block Parties, a Roxbury Community Poem 2023. And then paired with each portrait by Don West, we have a quote that was selected by Portia and Liz together with me. Here we have Gloria Fox. We feature the context for where this quote is taken from, where she states, "We need more women and we need more Black women and we need more Latinas in the House of Representatives. I need more company, girls, because only we can tell our story." So the poem begins at Washington Street. Next slide, please. At the two sites located there, here we have Byron Rushing and Melnea Cass featured. Next slide, please. Chuck Turner and Nelson Mandela, and the poem continues. Next slide. The Shaws and Mel King, and the poem continues. Next slide, please. And here at site 2, we have Paul Goodnight featured, where he states, "My work is not my own. My work belongs to whoever has it. It's our gift to give, not our gift to keep." And I'll just read this portion of the poem called Bread. "We born and raised, we resident and natives, we live free. We have a mission statement. We have a song, just dancing in the street. We Juneteenth parade, Hibernian Hall, Ruggles Hall, Blair Lot. We Hope Garden, we give flower while living. We living, we clean, we the greatest never seen. We rock, we daughter, we family. We beautiful place, we more about the people than the geographical location. We the main event, we make magic in the sky." A Roxbury Community Poem 2023. Next slide, please. And then finally, concluding at a Rayner's Circle, we have the Jolly Walkers featured, and a credit that Portia, Liz, and I developed that gives thanks to the community and also to Don West. Next slide, please. I just have a few more. These drawings highlight how the portraits and the patterning would change based on one's distance to them. Next slide, please. Here with the bench. Next slide, please. And then a couple of final renderings. Here we see Paul Goodnight featured on the corner just adjacent to the Madison Park ball field. Next slide, please. And a rendering to give a sense of the look and feel and dynamic qualities in the evening hours. And I'll mention the portraits by Don West, again, were selected based on the input from the community in response to the prompt question, "Who are your sung and unsung Roxbury heroes?" Don West, as I mentioned, has granted rights to use the portraits, and we're in the process of contacting each featured individual or their families if they are deceased, to one, tell them that they're featured in the project, to inform them about the project, and to get their permission and blessing to be included. Two of the portraits, one of the Jolly Walkers and Melnea Cass, are not by Don West. They are in the fair and free use and open source category. And the portrait of the Jolly Walkers was originally featured in Boston Seniority Magazine, which is owned by the city of Boston and was provided by Pauline Sheridan. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide, just to give you a breakdown of the budget and the various lines in terms of how we're spending the total budget of $300,000 from design fees to fabrication and engineering, and also importantly, honoraria for our collaborators. With that, I will conclude, and I very much look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. I think Karen was wondering if you had also procured rights consent from the people named in the text.
That is an excellent question. We have not done that yet, but we'll add it to our important to-do list alongside the process that we're engaged in with the portraits. As I mentioned, all of those names were provided by the community, but we'll definitely do that for sure.
Thanks, Jenny. I was wondering how exactly they seem to be beautifully lit in the evening. Are those LEDs kind of that line beneath I mean, this is a translucent glass. Can you give me a little more detail on that?
Yeah, and we have experience with working with these in-ground lighting treatments. They are long-lasting, made for permanent installations to be outside in extreme environments, such as Boston in terms of distinct seasons. And so they cast light from the ground up through the project. The glazing is translucent. The special materials include a dichroic film that's sandwiched between two sheets of the heat-treated tempered glass. I have also used this in previous projects. It's gone through extensive engineering review. You could, not that this will happen, but you could drive a car into this. It is the most sort of high-end durable glazing out there for this, type of work. So it won't be lit during the day, but it has a really kind of vibrant nature to it, and especially in the sun when there's full light.
Yeah, no. So the lights will go on. They'll be on a timer, I'm assuming, to come on at once it gets dark outside, or a light sensitivity gauge of some sort that turns them on. Yeah,
I've had success with sensors that are essentially they can change with the lighting conditions. So they come on at dusk, so they're
Right.
good seasonally. And then you can also have it on a timer, so they go off at a certain time, in the evening.
And so basically the lights themselves run under the actual panel, because I'm worried about snow covering the actual light source, but I think they run under the panel, right?
Correct. Yeah. And
Okay. Yeah.
and to add to that, one of the important site constraints that I dialed in was looking at the existing electricity grid so that we can tie into that along the corridor.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Any other commissioners have any questions? Brian?
Yeah, Jenny, just a comment and a question. And first, just congratulations on kind of coming this far. I was one of the commissioners who was participating in the artist selection process way back when, and that seems like a long time ago. So congrats on sticking with it. And it was fun to see your initial proposals back then, and also really exciting to see how those ideas evolved and how they show up in this presentation. So congratulations. I know this is a ton of work. So kind of seeing that and recognizing that. And then on the question side of things, can you just say a little bit about how the placement of these installations maybe kind of overlap with public transportation in the area? So for example, are the placements of the pieces corresponding to like bus stops along the corridor, if that makes sense?
Yeah, great question. And thank you for your kind comments. It's been a long and really impactful and meaningful journey for sure. So just pulling up some of my notes here. The site that is located at Sojourner Truth is relatively close to a bus stop currently, but that is going to change, as I've learned through Amber and our correspondence with various constituencies at the city. But the two sites that are on Washington Street are just adjacent to the bus stop there. But we also had to incorporate offsets from those. You know, they're very distinct metrics that we needed to incorporate so that we're not too close to those bus stops. The other thing we had to incorporate are dimensional shifts in circulation based on proximity to those bus stops, which we included. But the intention was to have a relationship with the bus stop, but not, you know, cross any of those important constraints that we needed to consider.
Got it.
I should
Thank
also
you.
mention that, yeah, I should also mention some of the original input, which you may remember that came in from the very first workshops, called for more seating along the corridor. And so that's how the bench as an architectural element, you know, as street furniture, came into the project early on, and also has figured into the siting as much as possible with the complex matrix of site constraints we had to work in.
And lastly,
Yeah,
I just
for sure. Thank you.
also add that the MBTA has confirmed, so the sites on Washington Street near Nubian Station are going to be nearby existing bus stops. And the one that you see actually in this image here, right in the middle of the park, is also near a bus stop. But this bus stop is going to be out of commission, I think, within the next year or so. They didn't give us a confirmed date. So it actually brings me a lot of, I don't know, satisfaction that we'll have seating there for the moment that seating is no longer a bus stop.
Available. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what was actually a question I was gonna have. Is there seating? Then not all bus stops have seating, so yeah. Any other commissioners have any questions, concerns? Should I open up to the public? Allison Pultinas, raise your hand.
Yeah, hi. My name's Allison Pultinas, and longtime parishioner at the church on Ruggles. Really glad to see this presentation and that you're getting deep into the history. I think that's great. So a couple of questions. One, you're doing another site at the corner of Tremont, right? And we're not, will that be related to these pieces or different? I don't know. Okay, I'll list all my questions, I guess. And site one, I wasn't quite sure exactly what corner it's on, if it's the corner in front of the church or if it's the corner opposite. And just wondering again about the sidewalk width there a little bit. And also whether with some of the benches on the ball field side, whether the benches will be, you're showing them all turned towards the street, but maybe some of them might want to be watching games at the field. So, because there's hardly any seating for watching soccer matches there. So I guess that's all my questions, but I really didn't quite understand what was going to happen with site one, and then to follow up about what's going to happen at Tremont.
Yeah, thank you, Allison. It's really great to meet you. I've spent a lot of time in front of your church. So the site, or the installation at site one is currently sited at the corner of the church that is closest to Tremont. And we incorporated very sensitively and integrated the constraints, including circulation widths, offsets from the tree pits there, offset from the curbs and relationship to the new bike paths that are there as well. And in that configuration, the benches are on the side that are outwardly facing, because it's pushed up closer to the church. We also included integrating the proximity to the entrances. We didn't want to be too close to the entrances to the church, but at the same time hoping to offer a place to sit if you were coming or going to the church. And then to answer your question about the orientation of the benches, absolutely. The installations that are adjacent to the ball field, they all have benches on the other side. It's just the viewpoint of that rendering is from someone crossing the crosswalk, but there are benches on the other side.
Okay, can I just, one follow-up? I mean, you know about the big construction project coming for Crescent Parcel, right? So part of the church building is going to be torn down, as I understand it. And so that project probably won't start until after your installation, or I don't know if you had shared a timeline yet.
Yeah, I neglected to mention. So the plan is to complete the project by the summer of 2025, so approximately a year from now. And we have discussed the sort of the future of the church and what's happening there, and the uncertainty around the siting of Site 1. So there may be some adjustments as we move forward and learn more about how we need to work with that schedule.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you're in conversation. And what about the one that's going to be on the other side at the corner of Tremont, closer to the Whittier Choice building?
Yeah, and your question was, is there a connection?
Yes, right. The
And-
relationship.
Yeah, so we're drafting the call right now, and the idea is that they'll share themes. So the themes of celebrating the heritage and honoring the people and the culture of Roxbury will have the same themes. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, okay. That's not Jenny's project. Okay. Oh, I
No.
see. Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Jenny. Well, do any commissioners now have any follow-up questions? Everyone's good. Okay, let's bring a motion, please, a commissioner. And to remind everybody, this is basically a preliminary design review. We're providing feedback on the design and concept. Jenny will return to the committee for a final design review.
I'm glad you made that clarification, and I would like to make a motion that we accept this preliminary design review.
Thank you, James. Can I get a second?
I second.
Thank you, Abigail. Brian?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Abigail?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you
Okay.
all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. Really excited to be at this point.
Great work. We look forward to seeing more for sure. Thank you. And the next presentation for review today is the acceptance of a Legacy of Color, a long-term mural for BCYF Shelburne at 2730 Washington Street in Roxbury by artist Gio Go5 Ortega with Louis Take One Taforo, proposed by Public Art Registrar Alexandra Paul Zotov from the city of Boston. Alexandra? You're muted, Alexandra.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that one too. As y'all may have remembered, in April, the BAC approved the final design of a Legacy of Color by Gio Go5 Ortega with Luis Take One Tafuro and their company Inspired Through Art. I'm very pleased to share final images of their mural and review it for a sessioning. As well, I'd also like to thank our mural consultant, Liza Quinones, for getting us to this point. So first, just a little bit of background about the actual site. So originally, the call to artists was released in June of 2021 through the Transformative Public Art, the Joy Agenda Initiative for a community or mural to honor the legacy of Malcolm X. It was originally slated for placement at the Malcolm X Park, but then the scope changed to a larger scale opportunity on the exterior facade of the Shelburne Community Center in partnership with the Boston Center for the Youth and Families. And you can see where it is right here. So here are the two artists. And here's the final product. It's a really, really incredible mural. And I just like to take a moment to read some words from the artist. Roxbury, a legacy of color. As we, the community, capture the essence of our own rich tapestry, we step into our own history. Each of us symbolically slipping into the well-worn shoes of those who have paved the way before us. Inspired by leaders such as Malcolm X, we embrace the stories and struggles of our past with a legacy of leadership. We celebrate a journey of identity and empowerment. With every step, we carry the weight of our shared history, each worn path etched into this mural, serving as a visual homage to the challenges we've overcome and the victories we've achieved together. Let this set a powerful metaphor that propels us to embrace unique paths while we honor the roots that anchor us. Roxbury, a legacy of color, a community of pride and honor, strides boldly into its future. Let us take pride in the footsteps we follow and the paths we create. Together, we paint a story of unity, resilience, and a boundless future. And on May 19th, I just want to share some really, really super special images from the opening. Here are just some pictures of the artists and their families, as well as some local community members. It was a very, very special event that also produced these special limited edition prints of the artworks for other people who were at the opening to take home with them. I'm very happy to be looking at one on my desk right now. And it was a very, very special gathering that was also attended by quite a few of Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture staff. Throughout the process of actually creating this mural, the artists worked with the Shelburne Community Center, working with about 10 kids and 3 youth leaders. They first originally presented the concepts to them and then received feedback on their draft design. They also developed this coloring book activity that helped lead the palette and pattern for the artworks themselves. And that was used as inspiration in the female figure suit. So the mural was painted with 2 coats of bare Altri semi-gloss, which provided maximum adhesion to the exposed brick and allowed for the best saturation of the colors chosen. As the primary tool was spray paint, the longevity of the spray paint is high and the color retention will last for a very long time. So maintenance is expected to be minimal, and all the colors chosen are widely available for purchase if there ever comes to kind of have the need to repair it if the surface was marked in a manner that was not intended by the original artist. And of course, none of the materials will have a detrimental effect to the surfaces that they're painted on. And these maintenance were made in accordance with the artists and the site partners. Yeah. So this is the final image. It's definitely an extremely special new artwork that we're very, very much looking forward to ensuring care for the next long-term future.
Thank you, Alexandra. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Any questions from the public? Well, if not, I mean, it's a beautiful mural. Can I get a motion to accession this mural into the Boston Art Collection, please?
I'll move to accession this mural into the Boston Art Collection.
Thank you, Abigail. Can I get a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, James and Brian. Well, on that note, I am a yes. Can we get James, what's your vote?
That will be a yes.
Thank you, James. Brian?
Yes, as well.
Thank you, Brian. Nigel?
Yes.
Abigail?
Yes.
And Diana?
Yes.
Thank you all. It's a beautiful work. Congrats to Gio Ortega, and Luis Taforo. And thank you, Alexandra, for presenting.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody. So if you remember at the beginning of the meeting, I talked to you about how the next 3 presentations are going to be me asking for your consent to move forward with projects that I'm also in the process of getting consent for in terms of grant funding. So we're sort of operating on 2 levels right now in terms of the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and the Boston Art Commission. So I'm proposing projects and also letting you know that we'll be coming back with more about them at our next meeting. But I don't want to move forward with these next steps without first making sure that I'm being transparent with you all about them and that I have your support. So please ask questions, but there may be some things that I'll have to circle back for you on, because since we haven't funded them yet, the artists haven't been paid for this work, which is why we haven't invited them here today as we normally would. The first of these is Elevar la Cultura by Victor Quiñones, and this is a project that will be taking place at City Hall, on City Hall Plaza. And you can, if you go to the next image or next slide, you can see an image of it. All this text describing the projects is taken from the artist proposals, and many thanks to Paul Zotov, who helped prepare these for today. And so you can read here a little bit about Victor's plan for the project and to tell the story of Indigenous and immigrant communities within Boston. And he will be proposing a pyramid structure, and we'll look at that a little bit more about the material it's composed of, but also some mural aspects to it, as well as projection mapping in collaboration with another artist named Pamela Hirsch. And Victor Marco 27 Quiñones is an artist whose work you probably know really well. He's done a lot of really beautiful murals in Boston, and we have commissioned him before, but in the past, those have all been 2-dimensional. This would really be a leap for him in terms of work that we've commissioned him for, and I think that's really exciting to see. That said, he has a lot of experience, working at a grand scale, working with projects that require a lot of logistics. So I'm confident in his ability to see this project through. And Pamela Hirsch is also an artist who's done this sort of work before, and I'm trusting her experience and ability on this work. And here you can look at the first site that we're going to be looking at. We're actually doing a site visit with the artist on Friday with our collaborator, Lisa Menino from Property Management. So our initial, the site that we want to look at is the roof of the Civic Pavilion. But we will be doing a walkthrough there on Friday and conducting that site visit with the artist. And in his proposal, so you can see his proposal a little bit more clearly here. He's creating a sculpture, and this text is from his proposal, using the same ice coolers many asylum seekers and street vendors use in order to survive. We see them in the subway stations on our way to and from work, up throughout the U.S. and up throughout the U.S. In every major city, we see mothers, fathers, and children of recent migrant Indigenous people using these coolers to sell tamales, flowers, water, candy, anything to earn an honest living and work toward a brighter future. The cooler has another meaning to most people as symbol of gathering and leisurely getaways, representing the American dream of having a nice home with a white picket fence and celebrating the 4th of July while you reach in your cooler to crack open an ice cold beer to admire the fireworks. And so here you can see the structure of the work. It will be with coolers, which are bolted together, held down by sandbags, and that there would be some open spaces holding items, offerings, and the artist would be installing clear acrylic in front of those to protect it from visitors and weather. Also, we talked about the potential need for a fence around it and signage, and he was also open to those things. And here we're just sharing a little bit more from his proposal, sharing sort of his thinking behind the project and more about why this would be an important and relevant project here in Boston, looking at demographics of the city. And once again, the role of coolers and why he'd be working with that. And you can see in the next slide an image of some exploration he's been doing with the materials. And these are from an artist residency he did at MassMocha earlier this year over the winter, exploring the materials. There you go, and I'm happy to answer any questions. As I said, with your support, I'd like to move forward with this project, and then we'll share more information with you next year, but I would love your consent to move forward with this in terms of siting it on city property.
Thank you, Karin. Do we have any questions from commissioners? So just to also kind of clarify, we don't have the site, is that exactly where we're proposing it for?
I think it's likely. I spoke with him about City Hall Plaza, but we wanted to do a physical site visit so we can confirm that with you at next month, but that is the site that we're proposing.
So on top of that building, so as far as I can determine, it won't be necessarily accessible per se to be walked by, so the need for a fence will be moot. Oh,
it is. Sorry, that's plaza space up there.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Mm-hmm. And if there's a different site, then we'll come back and share that with you. But this is one that property management proposed, and so I will be putting forward to the artist who already shared that he's comfortable with City Hall, but we wanted to do a site visit to confirm.
What are the approximate dimensions of it? I mean, I'm thinking of it as a pyramid, kind of harking to Aztec Mayan architecture, but these things can be relatively large. What's he thinking proposing for that dimension, site, size?
Yeah, let me see if we can have it on the renderings that we have on here.
About 15 feet, 15 feet high.
Or 15, maybe 15 square, 20 feet high, I think was what he was proposing, but I think we can make adjustments based on the site if necessary. We'll also be having the Disabilities Commission review.
So its footprint will probably be about what, 30, 40 feet length by width, I imagine.
I think what we were looking at was 15 by 15. Let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, thank you, Amber. 20 feet in height, 15 by 15 in width and depth is the proposal. And I think as I said, as there are updates, then we would bring them back to you.
Anyone else have any questions? Brian?
I just, I know we're not in preliminary design yet, but just thinking through, that site too. And I know, Karen, you mentioned, the need for some kind of like fencing or maybe like a protective barrier, and just encouraging, and I know this would probably happen anyway, but to really think about that kind of at the same time that the piece is being developed, so it doesn't kind of come off as an afterthought. I just saw some like public art somewhere where it was like this beautiful piece and then this like unconsidered fencing, around the piece that was just kind of really jarring and kind of took away from the piece. And I know there's so much thought going into the presentation of like Ria's piece, right, on the plaza, and really thinking about like, the piece and also the site at the same time. And I know you all do that, just kind of echoing my hopes for that work to happen together. Project looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does. Anyone else have any questions? Can we invite the public for any questions? Well, we're basically going to create a motion to propose to allow you to get more information or move forward for preliminary design.
to move forward, and if there are changes, then I'll bring them back to you. Because this is temporary, it's only, so this is part of the struggle with the one vote process that we have for temporary art. So I'd love an approval pending any changes would return to the commission, which I would anticipate, but I want to be able to move forward with the project during the time between the meetings. And so having your support to do so would be helpful.
Okay, can I have a commissioner create a motion, please?
Could you just suggest a format for wording for that motion?
We can make a motion to approve preliminary design as presented before the Boston Art Commission today.
I'm happy to make that motion to approve preliminary design for the project before the commission today.
So to clarify, this is actually final design. So I think it would be final design with the caveat that should anything change, that it would be raised in front of the commission again.
Thank you. Abigail, can you update that motion, please?
I'm just trying to, I'm new. I'm trying to get used to.
Oh no, same here.
Be helpful. So let's see now. A motion to approve final design for Victor Quinones project at City Hall, the Civic Pavilion. Sorry for the, forgive me. For the Civic Pavilion, pending with the provision that if any changes are made, the changes will come before the commission. Is that correct? Sorry.
Yeah, I think that would be, that's my request. It doesn't mean you have to do it, Abigail. That's just what I'm asking, if we can do that, that we have this proposal that is well considered, and I'd like to be able to move forward on it, but to be able to grant it and possibly go forward publicly with it before the art commission meeting. I just want to make sure that we are being transparent.
Understood.
Okay. Thank you. Can we get a second on that motion?
I will second to what Abigail said.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Abigail. And Brian, can I get a vote?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
And Abigail?
Yes.
And James?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. And Diana has now left us. So there we go. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. All right. Continuing down, inventive conversations. We have a really cool project to talk about next. We Are Here Too by Roberto Mighty. So I don't know if you all remember Roberto. He actually participated in the very first year of Boston Air. He wasn't one of the final three, but he took part in the original cohort. And I will say, he was a joy to work with. So he's proposed a project called We Are Here Too. And this is another temporary artwork. And this one's, actually, I'd love to open this up especially for input and conversation. So this project is looking to, and this is from his proposal, this text here, looking to tell the story of New Guinea, a colonial era waterfront neighborhood of enslaved and free African Americans that was in the North End, at the base of Copp's Hill facing Charlestown. And so what he really is getting at here is a cemetery that's in the North End, where Black colonists who were buried there are in unmarked graves, or there's no way to honor them or their memory because their graves are not marked. And we at the city are in a kind of funny place because these are historic, and our parks department also has a policy that we don't, they don't allow artworks in cemeteries. And Nigel, here, I'd love to see your wheels turning to help us think this through. So As I said, Roberto is a wonderful artist, and I'm excited to work with him on that. We've also talked to him about teaming up with the city's archaeologists to really check research, and I trust him very much with this important work. And we're looking for ways to share his project. So we likely aren't going to be able to do anything physical at the cemetery. And so for all these projects for On Monument, we will be doing signage, and we will be working with Mass Art, who is one of our sub-funders of Mellon support. So we're working with Professors Matthew Hintzman and Ryan Diaz and some of their students who are going to be working on all these projects that you see in terms of signage and interpretation. So that will happen to all of them. So thinking through ways to share this work will be really important. So this is a project for city property, but really there's nothing physical for you to approve, but I did want to share it with you conceptually to not only be transparent with you about it to start, but to also open up some conversations or suggestions. And it could be something, that we come up with some other ideas about. This could also be a work, which I think is one of our real excitements about the Mellon work and for On Monument, is that it can help us think through how we can approach these projects in long-term ways as well, or which stories are not being told in Boston. And maybe we do need to find longer-term ways to address them in the future. But doing this temporary work, whether it's complemented just by signage or augmented reality through like a QR code or something like that, or maybe there are talks and walks and that sort of thing, that can all be explored, but wanted to bring that forward to you. And that we'll be working with our colleagues, at the PIC to look for opportunities to put signage adjacent to the park.
And so just to be clear, Karen, so these answers are physically in Copp's Hill, the burial ground, but they're all marked.
Yeah, and again, we'll be double checking this. This is the proposal. We've actually seen similar proposals before. In particular to Honest Phyllis Wheatley, that were previously denied, but I think right now we have an opportunity and more, it's because it's part of the citywide conversation through On Monument. I think it's important that we engage in this story and that we also honor the concerns of the Parks Department and this team who works on cemeteries there and the real concerns that they have, but still find ways to share these stories.
So there's another slide that I think next that gives a little bit more context. There we go.
Karen, I'd like to just mention something. Anne Moritz, who sat with me on the Boston Cultural Council for many years and became its chair, has termed out of the Boston Cultural Council. I ran into her recently. She's working on a project to try and extend some of the Boston history walks into the North End, where she works specifically in order to honor some of the very same people that Roberto Madi is probably looking at. And I would love to have them meet each other and maybe share. Seems to me like a potential positive option to, if physical changes can't be made.
That sounds great. I'd love that. And I'm sure he'd be very open to speaking with her.
Karen, I just wanted to follow up with your comment about a longer range goal, because for me, I didn't know about this. And so now I do. And then a temporary, whatever it is that's temporary, will then go away. And then people won't know about it. So it's really important, particularly since those bodies or whatever is left is still there. And so somehow that needs to be acknowledged in a more permanent way.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, and so part of this work is maybe using this temporary work as a means to activate and organize people for us to, move on that and to gather around that need. So I'm hoping a project like this can help us do that.
So to a certain degree, we're calling this temporary, but once this content is created, it lives on a website accessed by a QR code, and it can continue. Basically it can, and so besides the content being accessed via a smartphone, I think of also, those virtual reality goggles. I remember seeing a lot of people walking with those through city streets. So that can be a sort of public program tour that the artist could take people through, or other docents, or whoever is super familiar with the research of this burial site.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, like, given the proximity of the Elliott, incorporating, I'm sure the teachers and the principal would be supportive of sort of incorporating some content or some pedagogy into school content for the kids.
Thank you. And I'll just say, we put this in, it is a temporary artwork. We put it in as final design. This is like of a different sort. So if you don't feel like a vote makes sense for this one, I understand, but I did still want to share it. We will have other augmented reality ones that come forward, but this one was different. So I did want to be able to share it and also get your thoughts as we move forward.
Yeah, I think we're all super curious of the content. I mean, we all want lots more info, right? I mean, I think,
Yep.
we'll
be back after I move forward with Roberto, assuming he agrees, right? So all of these I'll be making an invitation. But I did talk to him last week, so I think he will be amenable. But once we get that, and once we are, have a contract with him, have a grant agreement, then I'll be able to ask him for content. But at this point, it's not quite ready for that.
So do you need a motion from us?
I mean, I think having, a vote of support, again, there's not a physical object to it that I am presenting, but I would love your support in moving forward with this art project on this subject, maybe pending like updates, and if there are any physical aspects to it that we develop, that they get presented and voted on at a public meeting.
Are there any members from the public that would like to ask any questions? Okay, so can I get a motion from our commissioners to accept We Are Here Too, to move forward with We Are Here Too by Roberto Mighty?
I can make that motion to, I guess, accept final design for We Are Here Too by Roberto Mighty. I guess pending that updates, and so pending updates and consideration of physical aspects are reviewed by the commission at a later date.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Can I get a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nigel. Abigail, would you like to place a vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Abigail. James?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you, Karen. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. And next up, we have Spray It Loud, Display It Proud series, a monumental manifestations of community in the medium of graffiti. This one also, I will be reaching out to them to offer them a grant, and it is for a series that will be happening over the course of the summer by a group called Trike called Funk. I always struggle with getting that out correctly. And they are planning to engage and partner with local artists specializing in graffiti to visually amplify and creatively monumentalize the people, places, and values that are at the heart of the events that they'll be activating over the summer. So they, you may have seen them at different events across the city. They were actually at our opening at the Shelburne. And so they bring dance and music to different community events, and they are looking to tie in graffiti artists to the work. So with this one, for us to move forward with granting them the funds, that means we're also encouraging them to do public art over the course of the summer. So looking for your approval to move on this, and then to update, we can come back and update you with names of the artists and dates and sites at our next meeting. They will be looking to do 12 new medium scale works of art in community-based settings using 4x8 foot freestanding frames in a live painting format. So the designs will not be shared in advance because they'll be done through live painting using spray paint and pre-primed wooden panels. And the artist will be compensated through this work. And here you can see a little bit more about who they are. And here you see a temporary artwork in the back, and over on the right, actually, if you go, sorry, yeah, right here, the structure on the right of the image, you can see sort of that setup that looks like a cart with the umbrella, and that's where they play music out of, so it's mobile. And it's a really fun project, and so I'm very excited about this as part of Unmonument, because I think it's asking us to rethink about monuments and also bring joy into the conversation, which I think sometimes we can get caught up in the gravity of the work that we're doing. And here, really thinking also about engaging audiences of all ages in the work and the thinking about artwork and storytelling. And on this next site, you can see the project site locations, and we will, again, we will update this for you with more information in the future at a next meeting. And all of these events would be free and open to the public.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I mean, I think the diversity of locations is something that definitely, I mean, I think to access many different diverse communities would be something that would be ideal, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, is the Open Streets Boston citywide, that's to be the TBD, but I'm wondering if there are any in the Boston Common, you know, Emerald Necklace, you know, I think those areas would be interesting for this kind of work to be done in.
I agree.
Commissioners?
Yeah, I was just maybe a policy consideration. So thinking about like our memorial policy, I think the long-term commission is really the more detailed consideration, right? For short-term, if I'm remembering correctly, it's pretty, just kind of follows regular short-term proposal process, right?
Yeah, for long-term, we ask for like the 5 or 10 years since the event happened or the person passed on. But for short-term, I think we have been seeing those, and also for even for murals as places that would really be able to have a more immediate communal place for expression. So we're not making that huge costly commitment of granite and stone and, you know, living through the winters and all those things, but that we can do something that is more socially responsive through temporary art. And on this project in particular, we can explore possibilities like, do we want, you know, do we actually want to do this? Like, let's try it out and see, like, does it work? Does it not?
And will we get, you know, notification, I mean, going on that, the subject matter for these specific different locations in advance in order for, you know, any, you know, I mean, for us to be prepared, but also for the public to know kind of in advance a little bit about what will be painted live?
I can ask them.
I mean, I think because of the different sites, I mean, I think each of the artists that will be at those different sites should probably think about those sites, think about those communities, something that could be kind of commenting or influential within the community.
Yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners? So for this, you would like for us to propose to move forward with Spray It Loud, Display It Proud by Trike for Funk.
Tribe
A
Called.
Trike Called Funk.
It's like Tribe Called Quest, which I
Yes.
keep wanting to say, and I can't get the words out. But yeah.
Great. Can I get a motion from a commissioner, please?
Camila, I think Allison has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Allison. Yes, the public. You're muted, Allison.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll be fast. So very clear, these are each 1 day only events, right? The work is only there for 1 day. I mean, I think a trike, they were at the mayor's coffee hours last year, maybe the year before, but so I have seen them, but and they did live painting with the mural crew at least at a couple of them. So it's all 1 day events and then the piece goes somewhere else, or?
Yeah, they propose maybe displaying them. They're still sort of sorting out what that would look like, but maybe bringing them all together and displaying them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say they're even a day. I think they're probably only on display for when they get painted, probably about 8-9 hours, if even.
Okay.
But that would be amazing to get them all together. I mean, if the works they become property of the city of Boston, I'm wondering if anybody would like to house them permanently or something like that. But that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion from a commissioner then to move forward with this?
I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you, James.
However, the wording, once again, is I would like for, I make an motion to, I don't see it on the screen, to move forward with, what am I doing? Where is the thing? Spray it
loud, display it proud.
Spray it loud, display it proud. I guess it's final, semi-final, whatever the final iteration of that is. And I'm guessing that's the motion I'd like to move forward, since they're not going to bring it before us with the final design, because that happens on the day of the event itself. I know I'm talking a lot, but that's what I got for you.
Thank you, James. Can I get a second on that?
I second that. I second that. I'm looking forward to seeing the notes from these motions too.
Thank you, Brian. So I'll put it up for a vote. James?
I guess I'll say yes.
Yes. Brian?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
Abigail?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. This looks good. This looks interesting.
Yeah. So remember how we talked about that we were supposed to have 4 and then we didn't get some final approval? So during this meeting, the one piece we're missing came through. So we do have 1 more. And I'm sorry this is such a long meeting. But so Paul is going to close out of the presentation and reshare. But this was noticed. It was on the agenda. So we are not being shady. We just didn't want to do something without the artist's full consent. We had all this had conversations and just wanted to make sure that we had his support before we shared it with you. So while Paul, if it's okay, while you're doing that, I'll just give a little bit of an introduction. So we've been in conversation with Cedric Douglas, who developed a project called the People's Monument. And you might remember, and you'll see an image in a second, that he created an artwork on top of the plinth where Christopher Columbus was in 2020. And this was a really cool project. He worked with Illuminists, with Jeff Grants, and some other folks that you see named here. And he really explored who potential heroes could be that the city could be exploring and honoring. So here you see the example of Guru, and we have actually, I don't know if somebody could, but Amber, do you mind pulling up that banner article that was on it and putting it in the chat for folks in case they were curious? But really exploring like different people from the community, both living and past, who could be considered for representation. So when we were applying for Unmonument, this was one of the projects I used in the grant application to talk about the way we can use temporary art to really inform our long-term strategies for monuments going forward. And so I was very excited to be able to support this work. And in conversation with Cedric, where we've really landed is that he will spend 2024 doing some research and development on the project and have it as an opportunity to sort of re-engage with people in conversations and the methods he would use. Here you see an image of Cedric. He's a lovely artist who many of you might know already, and he's designed and created artwork for more than 2 decades in Boston. Also a muralist, but he does a lot of really wonderful social practice work that you might be familiar with, like the Up Truck, which is named here in Upham's Corner. And I think he did some work with Emerson College some years ago. He's really done some interesting exploration of memorials. The article that we sent you, I think in that one, he talks about wanting to continue the work he was doing, in particular around the Emancipation Group site. And so that is what the research and development would fund him to do that work going forward, to think about what some possibilities might be for the site or for monuments in general in Boston. And here's another image from that past project, where you can see they installed sort of a blank figure to be projected upon. And so this is something that we might do we're going to be doing for some other projects. So the projects that we saw today, the 3 we've looked at, were for funding the projects. This is funding for research and development, but this has been a really important project in our work together on monuments and conversations about what could happen with this site for the Emancipation Group, but also like who should be honored and how that might be able to inform some of the other work that we're doing across the city.
Thank you, Karen. I mean, I think Cedric and Roberto might need to have a conversation about some of the research he might have found in the bunker, in the Cops Hill Cemetery. But this also comes to, I mean, are you all familiar with a Bunker Hill project Krzysztof Wojcicki made in, like, was it the 70s and 80s? And basically he presented onto the Bunker Hill Memorial, I think it was imagery of homeless, of the unhoused. And that was a pretty poignant project. But anyway, I think, you know, there's so much to do besides the Emancipation Group site. I mean, I think there's so many other sites around in the Boston Art Collection that could probably be activated in this way.
Yeah.
Do any other commissioners have any questions?
No, except I was just also thinking the same thing, Camilo, about Roberto and Cedric being able to support each other and potentially
Find some folks. Yeah.
I think like connecting people, I think we'll be creating a nice artist cohort through this program for them to be in conversation with each other. And there's some others that we'll be sharing soon with you as well.
I think it's just exciting to like give somebody the opportunity and the time and space to really dive into these topics, especially like the Emancipation Group, since is such an opportunity. And we did so much work around that to then be able to give somebody that opportunity to really go deeper there, I think is really exciting. So fully support.
Yeah. And I remember asking Karen, I mean, if I recall correctly, also for this Unmonument project, if commissioners have any ideas, you know, they should probably put them forward to you.
Yeah, and you know, we're going to be releasing another call to artists in the fall. So we had this call to artists out this March, and we're going to be releasing another in October, November. And we'd really love your help getting it in front of artists and encouraging them to apply.
Spread it far and wide, the good word, if you will.
Yes, please.
Great. Anybody from the public would like to comment or question or query? Well, can I get a motion to have Mr. Douglas keep on researching the People's Memorial Project? Please.
I can support that. So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Can I get a second?
I second.
And James, can you vote on this, please?
I can, but I'll say yes. But Brian, that was so easy. I should have thought of that for the last one. Yes.
Thank you, James. Nigel,
Yes.
Abigail,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And that's all the commissioners we have here, right? Yes, I didn't miss anybody. Thank you so much, Karen. This is super interesting right here.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll share more next month. Hopefully most of it will be in a director's report and a little bit more concise, but we are very excited. Although next month we also will have, I think, Canvas of Culture design work to share with you. So
Great.
Karen, I have one question for you. Is the call for artists closed for the Unmonument project, or is it an ongoing call?
it's closed right now. We're going to reopen it in the fall.
I see.
Yeah, right
So
now.
that's like what, September-ish? You'll probably be sending a new one, another one?
Well, we're hoping to, so we're gonna probably still have these projects ongoing in September. I mean, I guess we could, it's more likely it will be October or November. We will aim for October. We had a hard time getting it approved by legal this year, but I think we've made it through that challenge. So we'd love to get it out earlier and close it earlier. So we have a lot more time to have all, do all the back end work and be able to promote the projects appropriately.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of work. I mean, thank you, Amber. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Karen. Definitely. And I think our next order of motion or order of business is to adjourn. Can I have a commissioner provide an adjournment, please?
I make a motion to adjourn.
And anybody got a second for that?
Seconded.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, James. And Brian, what do you think?
Yes.
Abigail,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
and James?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you, everybody, for this session here. Thank you, Alexandra, Karen, and thank you, members of the public, for attending and providing your queries and concerns. Everyone should have a lovely evening. Enjoy the start of summer.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Au revoir.